So my journey in terms of giving up alcohol has been an interesting one. I'd say it probably has been less typical than what you would normally hear, because my contemplation phase almost didn't exist at all, which is like the phase where you're just thinking about changing your behavior before you take an action. However, my pre-contemplation phase, I would say, started in 2018. And I was at Burning Man and I meet this woman who owns this mezcal company. And of course, anyone who owns a company in a particular industry, they're gonna know statistics and they're gonna know their industry very well. So this lady says to me, alcohol is on the decline. And I was like, is it? And I was surprised actually, because I used to specialize in alcohol addiction. That was my first area that I ever specialized in when I started training as a psych many years ago. So I didn't know where stats were at with alcohol. So to hear that it was on the decline, particularly in the US at this point, was a complete shock to me. And I questioned her on this a little bit and I was like, how is that possible? Like, she was kind of saying, like, people are just not going to drink anymore in the future. And I was like, how is that actually possible? Like, what is a world like that going to even look like? And I believed what she was saying. I just couldn't really imagine it, because that seemed like such a major shift. And so fast forward 4 years later, I can now see actually that alcohol is on the decline, particularly in younger people. Younger people are drinking far less than ever before. I think people have gotten very wise to the fact that the legal system and where drugs are and where alcohol is, it doesn't match up. So the harm that alcohol causes, it should be an illegal drug. It should not be legalized because it causes so much harm. Highly addictive, highly likely to kill you. I think people are realizing that actually just because it's legal doesn't mean that it is okay to drink it in the quantities that we've previously been socially conditioned to drink it in. Anyway, I just put that information to one side and it kind of, I guess, stayed in the back of my mind, but I never really put too much thought into it. I felt it was very interesting that the world was going to shift in that direction. So then recently in January, a really close friend of mine gave up alcohol, and I'm a bit ashamed to even say this, but I was a little bit judgmental about it, and it just seemed unnecessary. It seemed like just an excessive move for someone who I knew didn't have an alcohol problem. Like, she's not addicted to alcohol, so to completely cut it out, I didn't get it. I thought it was going to be quite inconvenient actually, particularly socially. I was kind of like, okay, seems extreme, but I totally, each to their own. Like, I totally, it's great that you're doing this for you, but I was at the same time judgmental about it. But of course, anything that my friends want to do that is good for them, I'm going to be very supportive. 6 months after that, I had been spending time with her all along, and she'd been turning up to parties, social gatherings, looking amazing, having as much fun as ever, actually probably having more fun than ever, and just glowing radiance and health. And she was like, she was and is the role model for not drinking. So completely inspired by this, I was having a conversation with her one day and she said to me, what are the benefits for drinking? Like, what are the benefits to you for drinking? Not that she was trying to convince me to change my behavior at all. And she was using a very interesting line of questioning that it was very similar to the type of questioning that I used to use when I worked with alcohol clients. So I was trained many, many years ago when I was doing my doctorate in a technique called motivational interviewing. And motivational interviewing is very much about helping people assess where they're at in terms of their alcohol use, looking at where they are in terms of stages of change, pre-contemplation, contemplation, action, basically seeing where they're at in the cycle in terms of making a change, and then helping them kind of weigh up the pros and cons so that they can assess their decision making. And she asked me a question that was very much motivational interviewing in the way that I saw it, but no one had ever asked me those questions before. So it was the first time, because as a psychologist, you kind of get to be in this very privileged position. You're allowed to be very intrusive with your questioning when you question clients, and obviously all for a reason. It's appropriate because you're assessing them in order to determine a diagnosis and come up with a treatment plan. But we have this kind of privileged position of being able to just ask all these really probing questions, and then no one ever else does these questions. So it's not really you know, it's not how things should be. But anyway, no one had ever asked me what are the benefits to drinking for me in my life. I mean, I don't know if anyone's ever asked me before, but no one's ever asked me in like, you know, at least like the last 15 years, no one has ever asked me that question. Because I would have had benefits when I was a lot younger. Definitely when I was like, you know, 18, 19, 20. For a long time in my life, there was a lot of benefits to drinking, particularly social ones. Anyway, she said, what are the benefits? You know, what are the benefits to drinking? It was just it wasn't a loaded question in any shape or form. It was asked in a very neutral, kind of curious way. And I was like, there are none. Because I don't need alcohol. I'm lucky, very, very lucky and privileged to not need alcohol for social confidence. I feel very confident in social situations. I knew that I didn't need it for that reason. And I was searching my mind and I was like, I actually can't think of any benefits. And it was like a complete shock to me because I was like, wait, there must be some benefits. And I knew the original reasons that I had started drinking and why I enjoyed drinking for like a long time socially, but those reasons didn't exist anymore. They weren't true anymore. I just didn't need it. I wasn't a heavy drinker. I mean, I would get like drunk once or twice a year, where you know when you have a little bit too much and you end up like with a hangover the next day. So it was like, although the effects of alcohol would make me very tired if I've had like a few drinks. So I was a very like responsible drinker by British and Irish standards, but you know, still I would feel the effects of alcohol in quite negative ways in terms of hangovers. But I wasn't someone who would ever go out and get drunk, or I had complete control over my alcohol use. Yet when my friend, you know, decided that she was going to stop drinking, I was like, but yeah, you don't have a problem. So I guess it was kind of ingrained in my mind that the only reason to change drinking behavior is like if you have a problem, which is like so funny that 9 months ago that I thought in this way. So anyway, I had this kind of like interesting moment, and I was in a taxi with my friend and it was left there. She was like, but what are the benefits to you drinking? And I'm like, there are none. And then I left. I got out of the cab and that conversation was left there, and I didn't really think about it more, but it was like an interesting moment. So then anyway, a few weeks later, Glastonbury was coming up and I messaged my friend and I said, I think I'm gonna try Glastonbury without alcohol. And she was like, great, like let me know how it goes. And I didn't know how it was gonna go. And I was like, this is going to be interesting. I would certainly have never gone to a festival before without drinking, because like it's a social place where you would drink, right? So I didn't know how it was gonna go. And I was like, this is gonna be an interesting thing for me, but like, it's probably gonna be hard, but like, I really wanna try it. And then to my complete shock and surprise, I turned up at Glastonbury and it was like, it was so easy not to drink. Actually, the problem for me was that people kept giving me drinks, and then because I'd never told anyone that I had made this decision, I didn't know what to do with the drinks, and I don't want to be rude, so I'm like sipping these drinks that I don't want to drink, and I really didn't want to drink. It was like it had turned my whole perception of alcohol into a very different thing. The fact that I was being given something I didn't want, so I was taking a few sips to be polite, and then I would just like give it to my friend, or I was just getting rid of it by giving it to other people to drink. So I had a few sips here and there, but like only because I hadn't figured out my strategy in terms of like what to do if someone just puts a drink in your hand. So then anyway, I just I after the first day I was like, oh no, I'm not drinking. So then that solved that one. And then I was having, I think I was just having non-alcoholic cocktails, which I realized very quickly taste exactly the same. Anyway, this was like, I was just so amazed by this that I would be kind of meeting other people, talking to people I've never met before, and they were like, oh my God, how's it going, not drinking? And because I was very happy about not having hangovers. And other people were like, tell me how to do it. So then I would, kind of tell them, even though I was very new to it, I was giving away my strategies already, and people were like, I'm going to try that. So it was very positive, actually, the reactions from other people. But also what was really interesting was no one noticed that I wasn't drinking. It was only when I told people I wasn't drinking, that's when they became aware of it. And I realized that actually my behavior in social situations was absolutely no different to when I had been drinking socially, because I wasn't getting drunk typically in social situations. So my behavior was no different. I realized this could be a way that I can live my life. So then a few weeks later, fast forward to a wellness retreat that I went to in Albania, and it was like lots of new people. So I was meeting some new people for the first time. We were on this rooftop and I was chatting to a new friend, and I was just talking away to him, and we were in a social situation where some people were drinking, some people weren't. I was explaining some stuff to him, like he was asking some questions and I was just telling him whatever about my life or whatever. And I realized that, because in that setting, I would always have been under the influence of alcohol somewhat. I would have been sipping a drink, therefore a little bit under the influence. And so anyway, I was explaining to him whatever story I was telling him, and the clarity in my mind was so precise, like my thoughts were so clear. I was like, why have I been disabling myself all this time? So basically I was like, I can't believe this. I've literally been like fighting this struggle to try and pay attention in social situations because I'm slightly under the influence of alcohol. And actually, and that's after like 1-2 drink, like as in almost straight away, and I never knew this before because I never knew social situations without alcohol, but basically the clarity in my mind and the ease of me explaining things and the sharpness and the being funny, like, being quick-witted, like thinking of jokes faster, was all of this was less challenging because I wasn't dragging my mind into this state where I'm actually not able to focus as well. And because I have ADD, focus is kind of an issue for me. Not really in socials, not in conversations, because I'm very interested in people, so I can focus very well on things I'm interested in. But when a lot is happening in this situation, so if there's a lot of people and there's a lot of distractions, my focus is actually challenged a little bit. So without alcohol, my focus was razor sharp, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. I can't believe that the benefit of me not drinking in social situations. I am drinking, because I'm always drinking a drink that looks and tastes like alcohol. So I'm always drinking, but not actually, the drinks I'm drinking are very similar to alcohol. They taste like alcohol, look like alcohol. Everyone thinks they're alcohol. No one really notices whether it's alcohol or not. No one questions it, but they do not cloud my mind, and I can focus much better. I should mention, harm was done to me as a result of someone's alcohol use. And it was during kind of COVID period, sort of lockdown, where people were starting to invite people to one another's houses, host nice dinner parties. And I was at a lovely dinner party. It was the most incredible food, the most incredible atmosphere, amazing people. And someone got drunk, and he was, I hate to say this because it's my culture, it's my country, but anyway, he was Irish, and he was very drunk, but very, very nice person, because I was speaking to him before he got drunk, and he trolled me around. He's like 6'4". He trolled me around, and I was, I'd had 2 glasses of wine, and he stumbled on a metal table and he dragged me down with him, and the table went up through it cut my dress, went up through my back, and injured me actually. Like, I should have gone to A&E and got stitches, but I didn't know that was what I needed to do. So I went home and rested and hoped that I didn't have like a serious spine injury. Woke up the next day, bent in every direction, just testing my spine to see if I was injured, and it was like, great, I'm not injured, brilliant. And then I continued on. That happened on a Sunday, and I continued on until the Wednesday. I went to the GP, and he said, oh my God, you needed stitches. And I'm like, oh, fine, like, give me stitches. And he was like, no, it's too late for stitches. You're gonna be, this scar is not gonna be, I had 2 scars. He's like, these scars are not gonna, I don't think one of them is gonna heal properly, but like, see how you go. I'm like, is there anything you can do? Steri strips? So we're like, whatever. And he was like, no, it's too late. You need to get if you're gonna get stitches, you need to get them the right way. So anyway, I had to have that scar revised, and I have 2 scars on my back, but one is a really nasty scar. It like does not look pretty. 2 years later, I still have like a red gash, so it's still healing. It's like the scar will eventually go white, but it's not a pretty scar, and it was the result of someone else's drinking behavior that led to me being injured. And it happened very quickly, and thank God my spine was not injured, because that would be a very different situation. But that was one of many, many reasons as to why I'm like, yeah, me not drinking makes perfect sense. Drinking is not, alcohol is actually not very good for us, can lead to serious harm, can lead to danger, and is not very healthy for our bodies. So anyway, I'm done. I do not drink anymore. It might change in the future. I might decide that, like, at some point certain wines I really like the taste of, and I might want to, introduce small quantities back. But actually I'm much more enjoying finding all of the tasting the non-alcoholic wines and all the non-alcoholic drinks, which are perfect for me. So for the foreseeable future, I'm not going back to alcohol. This is what suits me. I highly recommend, if someone is thinking of trying it, just, give it a go. You'll be surprised as to how easy it is, especially now that there's really amazing alcohol-free options, like so many options out there. If you do need tips or advice on it, just let me know. I've loads of them. So if you have liked this video, please subscribe to my channel. If you've got questions, you can put them in the comments below. I will try to reply to as many as I can, and I will see you next time.